Welcome, everyone. My name is Sarah Firetto. I am the Director of Alumni Relations at Providence College and a member of the class of 2003. I'm excited to bring us together this evening for the Firetto's virtual program called College Search 101. There's an app for that. This program showcases some of our very talented alumni in the Friar family and also hopefully will set the stage of what to expect during the college search, not just at Providence College, but in general, which can be overwhelming at times. Throughout the program, I encourage you to submit questions utilizing the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. This program will also be recorded to view afterwards on our Firetto's website. I'd first like to introduce Amy Cembor, Senior Associate Dean of Admission at PC. Amy is a tremendous asset to the PC community who has been in the field of admissions for 22 years, currently in her 9th year at PC. Amy will moderate the discussion with our panelists and will be sharing some PC application insights and advice along the way. I'm also pleased to introduce Adam Benjamin from the class of 1991. Adam is CEO and co-founder of UpperCampus, a technology startup focusing on providing all students with a new education and career discovery platform. Adam has spent his professional career in the tech and digital media industry, working for companies like Facebook, DoubleClick, which is now Google, and Reuters, as well as starting his own company that was eventually acquired by Oracle. Adam holds a Bachelor of Science degree in business from Providence College in the class of 91 and resides in New York with his wife, Meg, who's also in the class of 91, and their 3 children, and one of which is a current sophomore. So welcome, Adam and Amy.
Hi, Sarah. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Great. So Adam, thank you for joining us. I know that we value your expertise in the technology field and all the work that you've done so far. And I know you have this really cool product that you're going to talk to us about. I was fortunate enough to have a sneak peek at it. So I first want to ask you, though, how were you inspired to create this app? And what was your journey leading up to it? Because I know this started pre-COVID, right? And we can talk about COVID later, because I know that's on everybody's mind tonight.
Yeah, it's a great question, Amy. So thanks. First and foremost, thank you to Providence for allowing me to come and present what we've been working on for the last year and a half or so. And, hopefully we can make a difference in every student's life. That is ultimately our goal. I know it's a very ambitious and lofty goal, but the company and my co-founders and myself, we fundamentally believe that there are a ton of socioeconomic barriers, differences that are out there that prevent every student from having access to materials and content and guidance to direct them in the direction that they need to go in eventually. So like our backstory is the following. This actually started many years ago. I was working at Facebook and I was fortunate enough to run a couple of internship programs for the sales and marketing team. And we were just starting out there. So I've spent a lot of time bringing in college age students, speaking to a lot of high school level students as well, kind of from a mentorship perspective, and giving them some guidance and some tips and tricks and direction. And when my son, who is now the sophomore at Providence, when he was a freshman in high school, he came home and he told us, my wife Meg and I, that he got accepted into this Honors Academy program. And he needed to make a decision by the following day if he wanted to study healthcare, law, business, or engineering for the next 4 years of school. And we sat down at the table and I said, well, what do you think? And he said, I'm 14 years old. I have no idea. That was literally his response. And why should he know? Because, these kids are asked these questions at such an early age. What do you want to do with the rest of your life? And they're still kids. So, we basically sat down and said, all right, let's talk about the things that you're passionate about. And it was Marvel Entertainment, it was Legos, it was the New York Yankees and theater and music and this and that. And I said, all right, let's pause on Marvel Entertainment. Do you see yourself ever working for that company at some point? And he said, I don't make movies. How can I work for Marvel? I said, all right, well, let's call a timeout. Let's go to marvel.com/careers. Let's look at all the different careers that you could potentially have at this one company. And when he saw that you could be a business analyst or an accountant or a lawyer or a salesperson or a marketing professional, his eyes just started to light up. And it was just like everything was just starting to trigger. My conversations with these interns at Facebook, my own family, started talking to some friends and their children. And we started UpperCampus a few years later. So ultimately, what we're trying to do is democratize the entire process of college and career readiness for the students. There are a lot of point solutions out there that I'm sure many people on the call here either have access to, or you have children that are being told to go to government websites or maybe do a Google search for things. And the thing that I have a personal problem with is these students don't know what to look for. They don't even know where to start. They know what maybe, mom and dad or an aunt and uncle do, or maybe a very close friend from a career perspective and or where they went to college. But outside of that very close immediate network, they don't have that much exposure. So that is basically what we're trying to do here. So should I kind of jump into it and share my screen, Amy?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that would be great because while we all appreciate the backstory, I think seeing kind of how that journey led to this cool creation will certainly help with some context.
So let me preface this and say we still consider ourselves very much a startup company. The end goal here is hopefully everyone on the call has your children and or friends and their kids download the app, which you can get on the iOS App Store and or the Android Play Store. But I'm just going to start with this quote that's up here. This is actually a student that interned with us last summer. And this is exactly the type of quote that we hear from almost every single high school student that we talk to. And really what jumps out at me is this first paragraph where she says, everyone's asking me what I want to do, what I want to study. And when I tell them I don't know, I feel like they're judging me. So that right there is just a fundamental challenge that these kids are having. And it's unfair. We're setting them up for tons of anxiety and not really giving them the tools and the support and the structure that they need to find a fulfilling outcome, whatever that outcome might be. It might be going to college, it might be going right into the workforce. So what we've started, and let me actually just swap screens here for a second. And I'm going to leave this up as my background just so you guys can all see some links. If anybody at any point has any questions, feel free to email me and obviously download this. And then there's a link at the bottom that I'll explain later on. But on the right-hand side, you can see my app, my phone itself. I'm just going to go right into a very, very quick demo. And again, I know many of you on the call probably have access to things like Naviance or Maya Learning, which are definitely the high school players that are out there. Candidly, a lot of these tools that do exist out there are matriculation-based tools, and they're built for counselors. We took the approach of we want to build something for the students. We're living, and they're living specifically in the Snapchat, TikTok, Instagram world. So why are we giving them tools that were built 20 years ago to participate with and asking them to do it on their own time and enjoy themselves, because they're just not going to do it. So if you're like me and my wife, Meg, you spend more time in Naviance than your kids do. And that's not the way it should be. So let me say also, we have a college sophomore, we have a high school junior, and then we have a fourth grader. So we've got the gamut. And fortunately, I've been able to use a lot of the tools that exist out there as a parent. So I've seen what my kids specifically have access to. So understanding that the student journey from freshman year in high school to senior year of college has very specific milestones and tasks that need to be accomplished. We've built an app to try to hit as many of those check boxes as possible. So as a freshman and a sophomore, we know they're 14 and 15-year-olds. Their focus is really career discovery. Like early on, they're told to do these career assessments and then hopefully retain that knowledge for the remainder of their high school career. Juniors and seniors, then they're focused on college and major identification. Then they go into college and it's really focusing on major identification and career identification. And then juniors and seniors in college are all about career experience, internships, and actually getting a placement at a job. But one statistic which has stuck out with me and my partners for the, since we started the company, was we found out that 55% of all college graduates leave their first job in less than 12 months. So that's a massive, massive flaw in the way that we're preparing these kids. And this is with all due respect to every guidance counselor out there. We understand that they're doing God's work. Literally, the average student to guidance counselor ratio in the United States is one guidance counselor to 491 students. That is just unscalable and unmanageable. So we need to give these kids a tool that sits in their pocket, like TikTok, like Snapchat, what they can open up, they can hopefully enjoy it, and they can be not only entertained, but also educated along the way. So if you look at my phone on the right-hand side, we're going to just go through the normal setup of a student. And for anybody on this call, if you want to also download this for yourself, you absolutely can. Just keep in mind it was built for students. You'll still have to put in whether you're in high school or college, but just choose college and put Providence College down. So I'm just going to use a fictitious account that I use for demo purposes. So similar to a lot of other sites and apps out there, you typically go through this type of registration process where you're asked, okay, what are the subjects that you're interested in? I'm interested in finance and accounting. I'm going to take law off. Maybe I'll take philosophy off and journalism. And I'm going to click through. And the next question is, what are the interests that you have? So I do actually like animals. We just got a puppy, so I'll keep that in there. I will take cars and coding and cooking and cosmetics off. And then tell us a couple of brands or companies that you're passionate about. So again, working with literally at this point, thousands of students, one thing that we've realized is they really do have a lot of opinions and passion points with regards to products. They love Netflix, they love Spotify, they love Nike, they love this, they love that, but they don't think about actually working for those companies. So we're asking them flat out, hey, do you like video games? Okay, well, terrific. You might like Blizzard Entertainment or Epic Games. And then we'll start to build the content on the back end as it relates to these likes and interests. And you can scroll through all of these and move on. Okay, so what I'm going to do is now I'm going to enter UpperCampus. And the next time that the student logs in, this is basically what they're greeted with. They're greeted with a news feed similar to the other apps that they use all day long right now. And they have video content, they have textual photo content. You have the ability to obviously watch this video. If you like it, you can, if you enjoy it, you can like it, you can save it, you can share it with your friends. And in this particular case, this is Walt Disney talking about, interning in the marine life department at Disney. Like, who would put two and two together? We asked one student one day what he loved, and he said, I love to eat. And I said, great. Well, what do you like to do in school? He said, I like science. And I said, what's your favorite restaurant to go to? And he said, Taco Bell. Like, perfect. The result came back, you can be a food scientist at Taco Bell. Now, he in his mind thought if he was going to work for Taco Bell, he'd have to work in, a local chain, which is fine. It's a great profession. But he had no idea that you could actually become a food scientist at their headquarters. So that's what we're ultimately trying to unlock here. Now, I know we're talking about, your kids and using an app to actually explore colleges, but we want to take a step back and say, well, first find out what are their passion areas, and then look at those schools that may have the majors that ladder up to those passion areas. So if the student that's got this right here, they're interested in Walt Disney Company, they can click on the Disney Company brand page. They can subscribe to their content. They can, review all the other content that we have in the system for this one company. And then you have the ability to obviously keep going through here. We've got some custom content that we've created. That's everything from interview tips or tips and tricks from college freshmen, actually, things that students in high school should know. Wish I did this when I was in high school, or wish I knew about this when I was in high school. And then down at the bottom, we have our navigation. So you can click explore. And this is really kind of the launch pad that your kids would be using. So they can do a general search, they can save content along the way and show the stories that they're interested in, maybe employers that at some point they want to explore from a career opportunity standpoint, the colleges that they've liked and saved along their exploratory and discovery program here, and then any careers that they themselves have found interesting. So as an example, maybe along the way they clicked on marketing managers, they found that one interesting. We have mapped all the Department of Labor, all the Department of Education data that exists out there that's freely accessible. And what we've done was we brought it into our platform. We deliver it to the students based on their likes and interests. If they save it, obviously it goes into their specific digital locker. And then they have the ability to look at it, read a little description as to what a specific career is, tasks and knowledge, wages and growth, and then maybe specific majors that ladder up to that specific career. And again, we're trying to get the students just to get a little lost, inspired, and discover things that they haven't seen before. I will tell you that we do a survey constantly of our students, of our users, and over 90% of them have said by using the app, they found at least one career that they never heard of before and never knew about. And that's ultimately what we're trying to bring out here. So for everybody on the call here, for your students, I'd say like this explore area is probably the most interesting. You know, career assessment. There is a, if you don't know, the government website, ONET Online. It is the government equivalent of your Myers-Briggs, if you will. And students, most students, specifically in the public school system, go through this program where they will answer specific questions. We've taken these questions, we've kind of done a little bit more of a fun emoji type of thing, but do you like to use a handheld computer? Sure. Do you like to create special effects for movies? Okay. I'm not going to answer all these questions, but I will show you, just went past it. I will show you the results that come out. So it'll break it down and show you, okay, well, you're more social or you're more enterprising. Here are specific careers that might ladder up to your results. And here are some majors that you may want to consider when you go to college if you decide to go that path. So that's one piece. Then we also have the college exploration piece, which same thing, let's go. And we're going to say private schools, we'll choose four-year colleges. I'm just going to, for the sake of this call, do, oops, I got to spell it right, Rhode Island. And we know where I'm going with this one. I will say school surroundings are everything. I'll increase the number of students to, let's say, 3,500. And I will look for management majors here, wherever, marketing, I'll choose this one here. Okay, so then the results come back and you can obviously dig in. So this is similar to pretty much all the other tools that you all have used or using. The difference is we actually stripped a ton of stuff out because what we're finding with the students is they just want to get to something quickly. And then when they're in there, they want to do two things. One is top right corner, they want to subscribe to get notifications from that school. So they're not checking their emails. They're not reading the materials that come to the house. You all are. But they themselves, they want stuff on their device. They want it on the app. And then they also want to watch videos that have been uploaded by the school, whether they be alumni videos, whether they be from the school themselves. These students, you know it and I know it, they see right through all the nonsense. They want 30 seconds of content telling them why they should go to Providence College, showing them a quick aerial view of the campus, like something that's exciting, something that tells them, you know, how this is going to be your home. And, you know, they don't need to spend hours of digging into a specific channel, if you will. They want the snapshot. And then once they get that snapshot, if they're inspired, they'll stay and they'll click through. So I'm going to just save these three to what we call our blueprints. And I will say colleges. And I want to be mindful of time here. Yes.
We have a couple questions actually already for you that I'd love to throw out before we get too far off the topic of colleges as well, if that's okay.
That is perfect, yes.
Awesome. So it's two questions that have come in so far. One of them is about the security of the user information, the student's information, if you will. And then the other one is, and you just actually, when you just clicked on Providence College there, you put that you wanted notifications from the college. The other question is related to that. Will the student receive notifications, inquiries, spam from colleges, companies?
So first and foremost, we don't sell any student information. I mean, there are definitely companies out there. I'm talking to a bunch of them right now that that's how they make their business. We don't do that. Our backgrounds, just to be very clear, I was at Facebook for many years. One of my partners was from Google and one was from Oracle. We have privacy first and foremost at the front of every conversation we have. Everything's an opt-in. So you do have to accept terms and conditions. And for notifications, it is your standard notifications process like you have with any app. Do you want to get notifications or not? If you don't turn it on, you're not going to get it. That functionality won't work. I will show you in the bottom right-hand corner, the bottom toolbar here, we have this blueprint option. And blueprint is it's like your digital locker, your repository of things. One thing that we found in talking to all students of all ages, they said, it's always the last minute where we're trying to remember what we did freshman year or sophomore year. So if you've got juniors in high school right now and the counselors are telling them to write down their volunteer hours and to put their work experience and awards, academic achievements and this and that, I'll guarantee you that most of the parents on this call are the ones saying, oh yeah, remember when you did that? Or remember when you did this? Like it's just a common thing. So what this actually came, we've hired over the last 2 years that we've been doing this, we've had 20 full-time college and high school interns working for us. We don't build anything without students in mind and helping to drive, but we've also we've had about 250 interns over the time who have done some work with us. And this idea actually came from one of the students where they said, why don't we just have a point and click, which on the bottom right-hand corner, if you click this plus button, you can say, I worked at a food pantry. Okay, and I'm going to choose a category, which is community service. And this toggle here, which says share with my school, everything we do, again, going back to the privacy question, if the student doesn't want to share something with the school, they don't have to. So since this app is actually out on the App Store, again, it operates just like every other app out there. Students have the ability, if they want to share stuff with their school, and then they would have a unique code that they would have to enter into the app so that their counselors would actually have access to it. And you can add this entry here. So everything that is in here in this blueprint, like here's an example. These are the colleges that I saved. That's the career assessment I did earlier. You can put in all of your college tours, internship programs, sports awards, so on and so forth. Sorry that I'm showing Villanova here, but
yes, please.
I'll scroll past that quickly. Theater performances, so on and so forth. So, so the security piece is a great question, and privacy. It's absolutely at the top of our list. We do have a major university out in the Midwest who's put us through the ringer, and they've just approved us. So I feel pretty confident that we're doing the right thing by these students.
Absolutely. There's another question about the QR activation code retrieval process.
You can just bypass that if you want.
Okay.
So if anybody, thank you for downloading the app. Somebody's clearly doing it.
Eager Beavers, that's awesome. Yeah.
Eager Beavers, that's great. That is something that if there is a school, whether it is, I went to Iona Prep here in New Rochelle, New York, and if Iona was one of our partner schools, they would have a activation code. And if students put that activation code in, the school would be able to create their own custom content that would then show up in this news feed that only students from Iona Prep would see, or the school that that student goes to. Same thing with Providence College. So Providence is actually using UpperCampus in some of their marketing classes right now, and they have access to create their own custom content for Providence College students.
Great.
So
Very
anybody
good.
that's using it, you can bypass it for now. I will ask this: if you like the app and you think your students' high schools could use this, please just shoot me a note. I'd love an introduction, or I can have one of my team reach out to them directly as well.
Great.
Okay.
I have another question, if that's all right, and then I'd love to be able to bring our counselors onto the screen as well. So this is a topic that people have lots of interest in, as we know, and I know that was part of what drove you, Adam, to create this too, right? Just going through the process with your own son. The question here said that what we've seen so far, a lot of it seems to be really focused on career vocational training objectives. For a more academic focused student with an interest in service, wanting a liberal arts college, is there a way to learn about a major, for example, classics, right? Or pathways from there. So you kind of, when the parent says, what do you do with a theater major? What do you do with a classics major? I think that's the vein of this question.
Sure. So that's a great question. And we have the ability to surface all of these careers based on, again, likes and interests. Think about us as similar to, again, one of the social media companies out there. There's an algorithm on the back end that is geared towards the individual that's looking at their device at that time. We are doing pretty much the same thing. We are trying to find, based on the likes and interests of the students, what to better serve them in their feed. There is a tremendous amount of work that goes into this, and a tremendous amount of work that we need to do to make this really, really useful over time. But this is a great example of where we have to, at this point, offer kind of like an analog version of it, where the student needs to go and search for a major. They need to, have at least a general understanding as to what they might want to do, but they can back into it in this way. So if you are in your feed, and let's go back to this Disney company, and I'm going to click, so I don't know if everyone sees this, but right under the video, there's this blue bar that says explore related career. So I'm going to assume it has something to do with biology, all right, so zoologists and wildlife. So if I scroll down a little bit here, I can actually click on the college majors that ladder up to that career. So hopefully that gives the student kind of a little backdoor into a career, a major that they may want to pursue at the collegiate level, because we do find a lot of students, they just don't know what they want to major in. And that's why so many go in undecided, which is totally fine. But, to have a list of what looks like here about, 12 items to start with, that's a great place, a great starting point. Okay.
Absolutely.
The last thing I'll just leave with is on this explore page, we do have these industries down at the bottom. So one thing that I would mention to everyone on the call, and again, I know everybody has their own way of kind of pulling out information from their kids. For me personally, I've spent a lot of time talking to students who say, I'm really into cars. We're like, okay, well, what about cars do you like? And do you see yourself working in that industry? At the end of the day, they don't know much about the automobile industry. So you can click on any of these, what they call industry clusters, these sectors, and we're going to actually give you kind of hand curated content of industry overview. You might want to look at companies that are in that space, General Motors and Audi, so on and so forth, related careers that are in this space as well. So again, it's another area where you can start to, get that light bulb turning on for the student themselves. So I'm going to stop there because I know I talk a lot. And actually, I will say one last thing. If you look on the slide, not on my mobile device, but there's a link down at the bottom there, and it's mentor.uppercampus.com/Providence College/3318. What we've added into the platform as well is the ability for alums to go in and create their own videos talking about their experience in their career and or at the college that they went to. You know, for a lot of high school students, they love to hear about, they love to hear from high school alums that are at colleges that they're thinking about going to, because there's that social connection, there's that relevance there. So if you have older children that are already in college, you know, they might want to create a video for their high school students. If you yourself could go and create videos for the Providence College students, that would be huge. And it's a very simple process. You open this up on your mobile device, you put in your information, you type in what you're going to talk about, and you create a video. And it takes literally 2 minutes to do. And it gets approved by Providence College, and it gets put into the UpperCampus app. So then students that are interested in marketing can hear from John Smith from Providence College, class of '89, talking about their marketing career that they had. So if anybody's interested in doing that, would love and suggest that you do that, because it's just helping our UpperCampus, our Providence College students. So now I'll stop.
Well, thank you, Adam. We're going to have you stay on the screen because there are some more questions if we're able to get to them at the end of the program. But we do want to bring on our 2 school counselors because they are definitely an important part of the college process. So for our next part of the program, I'd like to introduce 2 alumni from our community who work with middle school and high school age students. So first, I'd like to introduce Shanika Boadu. She's a first-generation Ghanaian American holding a Master of School Counseling degree and certificate in college admissions counseling from Suffolk University. She is a Rhode Island native and attended Providence College for her undergraduate studies, where she majored in biology and minored in women's studies as part of the class of 2012. Shanika is employed by the Cambridge Public Schools as a guidance counselor to students in grades 6 through 8, and is currently in her 6th year as an educator. I'd also like to introduce Christine Brown from the class of 2005. She's the co-director of college counseling at Cape Cod Academy in Osterville, Mass, and also a senior college counselor for Farias College Admission Partners, a private college counseling company run by fellow PC graduate Beth Farias. Before working as a college counselor, Christine worked in the Providence College Office of Admission for 9 years. So I know both of these ladies have lots of experience and are happy to share that with you this evening. So I'll turn it back over to Amy for our next part of the program.
Excellent. Thank you, Sarah. And welcome, Shanika and Christine. Thanks for joining us. It's good to see you again. And I know this is such a busy time for everybody, you know, in our different worlds with college admissions and with advising and even just counseling the students, right, Shanika, everything that's going on. Everyone's world's been turned upside down with COVID. Can't believe we are 11 months into it. And I know we didn't get to talk to Adam about this a little bit, but I would be curious later to know a little bit more about how that has affected their work with UpperCampus. But students and families, we're all still moving forward. We're all still living our lives. The admissions world at PC, for example, you know, we've turned virtual with everything, virtual tours, reporting live from our kitchens here with information sessions and interviewing students from all over in the same way. How do you help students to think about kind of their futures, what they want to work on? You know, Shanika, from the middle school perspective, and then Christine, if you want to jump in, you know, this app would never replace a counselor, right? It would never replace, I mean, I think it works in conjunction with that human aspect. So I know I just threw like 16 questions at you at once there, but I guess start with the general and maybe sprinkle in a little bit of the in COVID world.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm excited to be here. I would say, you know, from the middle school perspective, every middle school is very different. Some middle schools don't even have counselors, right? So thinking about how to support your middle schooler in this process as I think about college as a whole, I really suggest, using resources in their neighborhood, right? Whether it be family members, whether it be people they know who have gone to college, whether it be the grocer, whether it be their doctor, whether it be someone they meet when you're out on vacation, when it's nice out and there's no COVID, things like that, right? So just talking to people and reading. This is a great time now that we're in the house more, we're in quarantine more, reading. That's one of the best things you can have your middle schooler do. Read, read, read. It's a great preparation for also things like the SAT or the ACT, right? The most exposure you're going to get to words and a lot of those critical thinking skills come from reading. So I do suggest that in this COVID time, capitalizing on that alone time at home. But in general, I would say one of the biggest things as a middle school counselor that I really try to drive home with students and families is building their student skills, building their study skills, organization, executive functioning, time management, scheduling themselves. And even though we're in COVID, those are all still things you can really take time to do and maybe even do more of. Creating a schedule for the day, right? A lot of our kids are at home doing virtual learning or hybrid learning, and creating a schedule for their routine at the house is important to keep them on track. That's building student skills. Whether it be, okay, I'm going to spend 30 minutes reading, 30 minutes doing a fun activity, and then 30 minutes doing homework, that's building student skills. So I really think the big thing about middle school counseling when you think about career and college exploration is just exposing them to as much as they can at this time through books, through the internet, through people they know, but really, really, really diving into trying new things, trying everything. And as a parent, that can be hard to think about letting your kid try everything they think of because their minds change with the wind as adolescents, but it's important for them to do that. Adam mentioned how sometimes students go into college and still have no idea what they want to do. Part of that comes from not being exposed, right? Not having those experiences before they get there. So really encouraging your kid to try things. Oh, today you're interested in hula hoops? Okay, let's get a hula hoop and figure it out, right? So really giving them those spaces to try new things and learn new things about themselves. Because the more they know about themselves, the more they can dive into their college experience, dive into their career experience. Even speaking from my personal experience, I don't think I had enough of that in middle school and even in high school. And so now with my nieces and family members, that's something I'm always encouraging. What do you like to do? Who are you? What are you about? Adolescence and middle school in particular is a really wonky, crazy time. Their brains, like I said, are doing a lot, but really figuring out what they're passionate about, what they like to do, and how they feel successful is really important in figuring out the next steps once they're in high school and beyond. But I think in regards to COVID versus pre-COVID, I would still push the same message, at least from the middle school perspective, in regards to, like I said, reading, honing student skills, really looking and trying new things. There's a YouTube video for almost everything these days. So really, really finding ways to explore and just learn about different things, right? Like maybe you heard something in a book and you're like, I have no idea what that is. Search it up, look it up. I think that's, again, one of the most important things we can do now and capitalize on, given that we're home so much more. And I'll pass it to Christine for more of the high school perspective.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Shanika, and thanks to everybody for having me this evening. I would say that, a lot of the preparation for college, in that way is really, as Shanika said, this is a jumping off point for continued exploration when you get into high school. And so having been exposed to a number of different things kind of at that middle school level, students can really tailor their interests as they get into high school, and they may have some more selection ability when it comes to courses. They can make a decision which electives they would like to take. There are other decisions that they can make when it comes to being involved in different extracurricular activities. So there's a way for you to explore your interests kind of at a deeper level once you get to the high school stage. So I do think that's important. Amy mentioned before how much, colleges have adjusted to meet students where they are when it comes to the COVID pandemic and everybody needing to be home. And I think it's never too early to sit down and take a virtual tour. It certainly used to be that you would have to get in the car and go drive and visit a college campus. And I hope very soon that you'll be able to do that again. But right now, if you are looking at the silver lining, colleges have worked really hard to bring all of their resources to you and to students from far away. So for example, if you are living in New York, you may never have gotten on a plane to go visit a college in California, but now you can from the comfort of your couch. And so I think it's certainly a good time to be exploring different options. I think the other important thing for our students at the high school level is to drive more of that self-reflection. I'm a note taker, I'm a pen and paper kind of person, but wherever our students take our notes, whether it's in an app or on their phone or on a Google Doc, make sure that with each experience you're having, you are reflecting about, was this a good fit for you? What did you like about this? What didn't you like about this? And that is certainly going to help to shape your future as well. So hopefully, Amy, that answers your question. Again, I know you had a few. I'm not sure if I missed one.
I know, sort of gave you a bunch at once. I think you both gave us a lot to think about and gave us some really sound advice. And to Christine's point, I mean, at PC, typically this time of year, part of my role in the office, I'm asking the admission officers, okay, who's going to cover which information sessions, right? Who's on duty which days? Christine knows because she used to work in the office. We all picked a Saturday to kind of staff the office and be there and be present. My question now is, who's going to do the 6 p.m. information sessions virtually on Mondays and Wednesdays all spring? Because families aren't coming to campus for a 1:30 information session and tour. So to meet you all out there where you are, you're working and trying to do your schooling from home, and nobody wants to get on the computer after dinner. We get that. So even trying to kind of condense those sessions and make it something you all want to do. As counselors, what can parents expect from you through this search process? Likewise, what do you think the parents' role should be? Because I have some thoughts on that too, but I'll hold that for now, based on things we see in the admission office. So what's the relationship?
Yeah, I can start first on that one. I think as a parent, it can be really scary watching your child grow up, especially through adolescence and into high school and then off into college. You want to handhold a lot. You want to make sure they have everything they need. You want to be super involved. You want to cradle them sometimes and kind of shut the world out so they don't get hurt and things of that nature. But I think one of the biggest things that families can be doing at this time is to really let their kids and students have those experiences of trying and potentially failing, trying and potentially changing their mind, trying, and to Christine's point, reflecting what worked there, what didn't work there. So I really do believe that the family's involvement at this time is really in nurturing their curiosity, nurturing their ability to look back on their experiences, nurturing their ability to research and try new things. I think it's really important that we take away this idea that we have to protect them from everything and really let them explore. Exposure is going to only continue to benefit. Oops, muted myself. Sorry. It's only going to continue to help them as they move through school and through life in general. So I really think the biggest role that families can play, especially now with COVID and being home more, is to just let their student try things out, figure it out, and then be there to have that reflection and be that sounding board. Like, hey, mom, this didn't really make sense to me. Let's talk about that. I think another big thing is modeling behavior you want to see, right? If you want your kid to be more of a researcher, an explorer, and build those habits, like I mentioned before, of time management and organization, model that for them, right? We're all home. You're working from home maybe they're doing school from home, show them how that works for you. Well, I created my schedule to go through the day, and this is how I do it. What do you think would be a good way for you to do that? Or how do you organize your day? Again, really building in that ability for them to, I think to Christine mentioned earlier, like try and see how things go and then reflect. This is a great time to do that. And in general, I think that's a good role in adolescence. I always say, give them autonomy with boundaries so that they have some space to do their thing, but they're also feeling that security on the outside.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Shanika. And again, at the high school level, I think it's more of that, and allowing them to try and also take the reins, take the steering wheel, and get things going. I think it's hard for teenagers. The ones that I've encountered have a tough time viewing the big picture and seeing what's out there, when they're so focused on, I need to get my pre-calc homework done for tomorrow, or I need to get my chemistry homework done for tomorrow. And so helping them to set aside time for that future goal, for that big picture, that spending 30 minutes on pre-calc homework is important. And then let's spend 30 minutes discovering something new, or researching something different. So setting aside time for that, I think, is certainly important. That supportive role becomes, very important as you're going through the college process. And sometimes it can become, throughout high school, the main event, I guess you could say, during dinner conversations and things like that. So really good advice that I heard was to set aside time to talk about college and allow everything else to happen during a different time. So if it's tacos on Tuesday, let that be the night that you're talking about college, and then shut that conversation off for the rest of the week so that you don't feel like you are continually nagging, or that students are feeling like you are continually nagging about the college process. Kind of try and set aside time for that.
Absolutely. I was thinking that in the back of my head too, right? It's sort of like that box that you open it, you talk about college, and then you kind of shut it. Otherwise, Pandora gets out and is all over the place. Adam, as a parent who recently went through the process, what's your experience, or what are your thoughts about that? Sort of where do you drive the bus? Where do you sit in the back seat and hold on tight?
It's a good question.
With a seatbelt and a pillow?
So, look, I mean, to be very candid, we went and we did the typical 10 schools, 8 to 10 schools. We went on the tours. Every time we went to PC, every single time it rained. And, my wife and I were just hoping for that great experience. And it just didn't happen because of the weather. And that was 2 times. The last time we went, and we didn't do tours both of those times, just one time. Our son Aiden wanted to see it one more time. And he had already gotten his acceptances and stuff. And we went to the school. We got off of the exit off of 95. And it was like, God kind of spoke to everybody. The clouds broke. There was a rainbow across campus. I'm not even making this up. Like,
Wow.
it was like everybody was out walking across campus, and it was the first time on a campus where we saw his shoulders go down and his head go up. And if that makes sense, again, many of you have been through the process before. You just know, like you can just see it in your students. So our daughter, who's a junior right now, is a very different kid. She's got a lot of opinions about very specific things. So it's going to be interesting. But, it's one of those reasons, again, why I'm doing what I'm doing right now. We want some of that uncertainty, or some of that inspiration, I guess, to be delivered to these kids in a way that they feel comfortable. Not every kid wants to go on campus and do a tour. They should go see some. Not everyone can do it. So they spend time behind their feeds of their social apps. So let's give them something that could at least give them an experience that's meaningful to them. And that's what we're trying to do.
So Adam, it wasn't any of those marketing materials we sent him from admissions. It wasn't, our wonderful personalities. It was the rainbow. I love that. I love that. But to your point, it is, to parents out there, it could be the most random thing that turns the student on or off to the college. So I know we've seen parents in our office sometimes who then have a little bit of frustration on their face, or who have that extra excitement because that wow moment either did or didn't happen. And sometimes it takes a little bit more coming through. Let me just go back to Christine for one moment. Christine, I know you were talking about all of the kind of ways parents can support. You both were talking about ways parents could support their students going through. But Christine, in your experience as a high school counselor, and you've worked in a few different roles, what should these parents be expecting of their counselor? How would you kind of guide them or not?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, certainly parents can expect the counselor to be a resource for more resources. So they're certainly not going to know every little thing about every college. I know I certainly don't, but I know how to find that information when somebody comes calling for it, if somebody has a question. And if I'm having trouble finding it, I can pick up the phone and call a college and ask, or call an local organization and ask, and that's again part of my role as kind of a liaison. I bring college reps into my high school so that I can create those contacts so that parents and students can hear directly from college representatives. Obviously, that's happening via Zoom now, virtually now, but being that liaison, I think you can certainly expect that for them. You can expect, and I should say, if you have parents, if you are a parent of a current junior or even a sophomore, and you haven't heard much from your school counselor yet this year, I have to say you're not alone, and I would advocate on their behalf and say they're dealing with a very, again, wonky year, and helping the seniors to get through this very difficult process in a very different way, and that their attention, now that the seniors are kind of in good shape, their attention will turn over toward the juniors and the sophomores after them. So just hold on. But I think in that vein, you can certainly expect the school counselor to be your child's advocate. They're going to be writing a recommendation on their behalf if college is their path. And so I would encourage your students to be in touch with their counselors as much as they can. And it might be unsolicited. Again, you might not have heard from the counselor yet, but feel free to reach out and make an appointment. As I often tell my students, I quote Jerry Maguire, help me help you, right? So give me the information that I need to help you to do the best through this process. What are your interests? What are you thinking about? Have you changed your mind since 3 months ago? And, no, now you're thinking about a major in this. So do what you can to kind of show your initiative in this process and your desire to go through the college process, because that initiative alone is something that counselor can hold on to and say, this has been, a great student to work with through the process.
I just want to say one thing that Christine made me think of in response to what she was just sharing. And we want to see students advocate for themselves. But of course, as a family member, you want to push them. Kind of again, back to my point about autonomy with boundaries, right? When a counselor sees that the student is invested in driving the bus and really trying to figure out to get all the help they can and access the resources they can, that excites the counselor too. And so I think back to your point, Christine, about like, help me help you. What do you need, right? Helping your students talk about that with you at home, and they go to school or talk to their counselor about it when they're in that space. I think that's really important. I think sometimes parents feel like it's all on them to make sure their kid gets everything done in the college process, and that can be really hard, especially if this is the first time or you've had different experiences with other children. but I think it really, really is important for you to help your child build that advocacy on their own as well, because when they get to college, when they get to campus, a lot of it is on them. So really helping them to find that spark for themselves. And I think to Adam's point, it may not be every school they visit, it may not be every person they talk to on those visits or tours or any of that, but when it's the right fit, you'll know, you'll see that. But that takes them being invested. So if they're not the ones driving the bus, they're not the ones invested, how will you know? Right. So really helping kids to find that autonomy for themselves and that advocacy for themselves.
Yeah, and I think now is a perfect time to practice that too. Again, without the ability for most of our students to be in school full time, students really have to work hard to reach out if they need extra help, to reach out if they want to meet with a teacher or need something explained to them. So practicing that advocacy now to say, I really missed the concept there in chemistry, can you help me? And again, that's only going to make the road smoother for them, not just now with your chemistry grade, but down the road, that skill, down the road when they get to college.
Christine, that's actually a really good segue. I'm going to take over asking some of our questions that have come in because some of these are actually going to be directed towards Amy as well, but I want to make sure that we get to them. So given the difficulties in getting SAT test dates, is the SAT viewed differently, realizing that PC has been test optional for a while?
Absolutely. More and more, and I see Christine smiling, we're getting, we being admission officers and high school counselors are getting notifications from other colleges that they're continuing to be test optional. So you're correct. There are places like PC that have, I'll say, done the right thing, showing my bias, and been test optional for years. We've been test optional since I think it was 04, 05, 04. Okay, thank you. I think I'd remember. But there are, most colleges this year, and I would venture to say all, allowed students to apply without submitting any kind of test scores, recognizing that this thing isn't going away. I have a friend who calls it the before times. We're not going back to the before times anytime soon. So yeah, the colleges are announcing that they're going to continue to be test optional. What does that mean? That means that colleges are, some are thinking about how they read the application a little bit differently. They're putting less weight on this standardized test that is supposed to measure knowledge. Notice how I said supposed to, and, spending a lot more time looking at the students' day-to-day work, their course load. That's something we look at a lot at PC, is the rigor of a student's curriculum. What is available to you? What have you taken advantage of? Where have you been comfortably challenged? And then how they've done in those courses. So yeah, the grades count from freshman year, sophomore year, junior year. So that's maybe a longer answer, but that's how we've sort of pivoted. I hate that word, but that's the process this year.
Great. And then what is the expectation or understanding of high school students' extracurricular or volunteer activities during COVID?
Yeah, we have absolutely seen, and we expect that, people are going to have these gaps in their extracurricular experiences or these sudden shifts, right? As Shanika said earlier, it's the time to try new things. I have a middle school son myself. He wasn't able to do any of his usual things this year. He's an avid ski club guy. He's doing archery. Who knew? If he was a junior in high school and applying, you'd see that on there. You'd see this strange gap. Some of the applications we've received this year do have sort of parentheses around thing, was on the junior prom planning committee. Junior prom was canceled last year, or was expecting to be the captain. We didn't have a fall cross country season, that kind of thing. So we're all living through this together. This isn't a one-off that's happening in one tiny town or hamlet in the country. The entire world is affected. And I guess the good part about that is we're able to all put it in perspective because we're living it. We're in various situations, but we have that eye open to the fact that not one person has been unaffected by this.
And another question kind of related to how the pandemic has, had an impact on the application process. Given the difficult learning environment of hybrid schedules, quarantines, isolations, even some schools going pass fail versus others staying with grades, how is admissions comparing, evaluating grades, and understanding or asking about why there may be an up or down in a student's grade?
Absolutely. A major piece of college admissions is communication. A major, a major tool we use in our toolbox is communication, whether that's college admissions people with high school counselors, whether that's students, not parents, communicating the changes and the challenges via an application essay or an interview. Knowing more is better in this kind of case. If there is something that is extenuating or different, we want to take that into consideration. The other piece for everybody to know out there is that high schools send along something called a school profile with the high school transcript. So when we receive applications, that has the application has the transcript. It has that other page that explains a little bit about the high school. So I can know, as the person reading the application, that the high school Shanika went to and the high school Christine went to and the high school Sarah went to may be different. That one did go to pass fail option last year. One may have boosted a student's grade if they actually showed up to class virtually simply because they showed up, where the other one may have just said, nope, we're holding you to the line. It's exactly the same grades as you had when you were in person. That profile explains that, and every single letter, high school recommendation letter and transcript that I've looked at so far this year has something in bold or italics or pink font or something on it that explains what their system was. So again, know that we're putting it in context. And we don't pit students against each other in the admissions process. I think that's the really hard thing, especially when the schools with the lowest acceptance rates are the ones that get all the attention in the news, or the school that had 102% application increase. They're the ones who are being highlighted because that's a story and that's going to sell a newspaper, if you will. The other, the rest of us who are admitting almost as many students as we aren't admitting, or able to admit more than we deny, that's not sexy. That's not going to sell, but that's the reality. That there's definitely a lot more opportunity than the news would lend you to believe sometimes.
Thanks, Amy. I think that's all of our questions for right now. And I know we're just past 7 o'clock and our PC Friars are playing tonight. So I know everybody wants to tune in for that. Thank you for all sharing your insights. PC is definitely proud to have you all as part of the alumni community. Any last piece of advice that you'd like to leave the audience with? Christine, I'll start with you.
Great, no pressure. Yeah, I would just say, again, start as early as you can. I'm not talking middle school years, but start early to explore colleges, start early to talk about financial aid and costs, and start early when you want to, when you're writing those essays as an English major. That would be my my piece of advice, that the more you do it, the better it's going to be.
Great. Shanika.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. I think the big thing that I would leave, especially coming from my perspective at the younger ages, is to like I said earlier, let your kids try and maybe fail. It's okay. It's totally okay. And also just to, let them be themselves. I think something that I hear about a lot from families and from kids in response to their families, they do tell us about what you say to them, is that, families can sometimes discourage their interest. Oh no, you shouldn't be a chef. Oh no, you shouldn't go into art. Oh no, you shouldn't go into certain careers or focuses. So I think One big thing I would say to families is that let your students try those things. They'll love you more for letting them try those things instead of resenting you for not letting them try those things. And then just being open to letting your kid drive the bus as much as possible. I think, again, building their advocacy is going to only benefit them now and in the future. And also have fun. This is supposed to be a fun experience. This should be fun, right? Middle school should be fun. High school should be fun. The college search should be fun. So also have some fun together as you go through these pieces. So that's one of my last thing I'll say.
Adam, any last words as either a PC parent or about the app?
Yeah, I mean, I love what Shanika just said, because we were literally just talking to a school who said college exploration needs to be boring? We love what you're doing because it's fun and it's familiar to the student. So honestly, look, again, I'm a dad. I love talking to my kids about what they're passionate about. I love then starting to kind of peel back the onion and saying, all right, well, what about art? What about music? What about theater? Like, what are the different types of avenues that you could potentially take? So my thing is all about, it's fun, it's engaging, it's interactive, it's asking the questions that are not closed, not the yes, no questions. It's the open-ended, like, let's get them talking. And we're hoping tools like UpperCampus can spark some of that communication that we should be having with the kids.
Awesome. Thank you, Adam. Amy, anything to leave us with from the PC perspective and the application process?
Oh gosh, sure. I echo, of course, what everybody has said. Have fun, be yourself. I think the one thing I would tell students and parents is, in this application process, we often at PC hear, well, what should we tell you? Or what do you want to hear? Or parents, alum parents will call us and say, what looks better for college? Where is the student their best authentic self? I can't tell you to be a tuba player if you are tone deaf. I can't tell you to be a quarterback if you can't catch a ball, throw a ball. I don't even know what a quarterback does. That's why I'm going to go watch the basketball game. But that's truly what we hear. And what, the applications that are the best are the ones where the student is him or herself through the process. That's where you can see that there maybe is a little joy in it, or they're excited to tell us about one thing or another. And the very last thing I'll say is, it is within your rights as parents and students to ask questions of us in the admissions process, because it depends. And when your high school counselor, your middle school counselor says, well, it depends, they're not blowing you off. It really does depend. And I've worked at a few different colleges. My answer may have changed a smidge depending on the school I worked for, because the process was a little bit different. Pick up the phone and call us, send us an email. We'd love to answer those questions. So just get comfortable with that. It does depend.
This has really been great. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us and the PC community. Thank you all for tuning in. This will be located on our alumni website. If you want to pass it off to a friend or classmate that may have missed it, or just want to go back and reference it yourself, it'll be there for you. And please always use this as a resource, and go Friars. Thanks, everyone.
Go Friars. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody. Thanks.